I had always believed that love, once claimed, became a permanent possession, something unshakable, something sacred. I thought the vows we shared were carved into the marrow of our bones, echoing louder than the ticking of time or the whispers of the past. From the outside, we looked perfect, the kind of couple people admired and envied. She moved with grace, spoke with warmth, touched with purpose. I worshipped her not just as a woman, but as a mystery I felt honored to belong to. And yet, sometimes in the middle of the night, I'd wake up to find her lying beside me, eyes open, lost in thoughts she never let me near. She told me she loved me, and I never doubted her lips when they formed those words. But there was something she hid behind her kisses, something I couldn't quite name but felt like a ghost slipping through her breath. Her silence was eloquent, too eloquent. There were times she'd disappear into herself, retreating into some hidden chamber I was never invited to. I'd ask where she'd gone in her mind, and she'd just smile, pulling me closer like I was enough to make her forget, and I believed it. I let that belief feed me, even when unease scratched beneath my skin. I started noticing the little things first, the way her phone would light up, and she'd turn the screen down. How she suddenly became conscious of her reflection, fixing her hair more than usual. She laughed more with strangers, grew quiet with me. I convinced myself it was work stress, or the weight of routines, slowly burying her spirit. But suspicion doesn't knock, it grows, it blooms in the shadowed corners of your sanity, and once it takes root it poisons everything. Still, I couldn't bring myself to ask directly. I feared what might break if I shattered the illusion of trust. One night I followed her, not out of mistrust, but desperation. She told me she was going out with friends, something innocent, but her tone had that hollow ring, like a rehearsed lie slipping off her tongue. I felt like a coward hiding in the dark, but something stronger than shame pushed me. I watched her enter a quiet, dimly lit restaurant far from where she claimed to be. She sat alone at first, then he arrived, tall, suited, confident. I couldn't breathe as I watched them lean in too close, speak too softly, laugh like they shared some sacred joke I was never meant to hear. I didn't confront her that night. I returned home and waited, heart hammering, mind unraveling. When she came back, she kissed me like nothing had changed, and that broke me more than if she'd confessed. I looked into her eyes and searched for guilt. I saw none, only something deeper, regret perhaps. But not for me, for herself, for her truth. I wanted to scream, to accuse, to make her tell me why, but I stayed silent, choking on the knowledge that my reality was built on her lie. Over the following days, I watched her carefully, every movement, every word, every sigh. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly. I was haunted by possibilities. Was she leaving me? Was he someone from her past, or worse, her future? She noticed the change in me, but said nothing. She simply held me longer at night, made love with more intensity, like she was trying to bury something beneath our skin. Her passion had urgency now, as if she was trying to hold on to something already slipping away. One evening, I found a letter, not hidden well, just beneath a stack of books she kept in the study, like she wanted it found, or maybe didn't care anymore. It was addressed to no one. It wasn't dated, but it was her handwriting. Each line bled truth more profound than anything she'd ever spoken aloud. She wrote of love and guilt, of needing someone she could never fully have. She spoke of a promise made long before me, of a man whose life was tethered to hers by more than love, by obligation, by danger. She called herself a coward for staying silent, a traitor for pretending. But nowhere in that letter did she mention my name or his. It was just pain poured onto paper, raw and unfinished. I confronted her with the letter. I didn't yell. I couldn't. The weight in my chest was too great. She stood still as I read it aloud, and when I was done, she didn't deny it. She walked to the window, her back to me, and said, "I was never meant to be saved." I asked her who he was. She turned, eyes glassy but dry, and whispered, The reason I survived. That answer punched through me like glass. I asked again, needing more. She hesitated, then sat down, folding her hands, like she was preparing to confess to something unholy. She told me that long before we met, she had belonged to someone else, not just emotionally, but in ways I couldn't imagine. He had pulled her from a darkness she never described, but hinted at violence, perhaps, or betrayal. They weren't in love anymore, but he still owned pieces of her past. He knew things no one else did. And recently, he came back, not to rekindle anything, but to remind her of a promise she made, that if he ever needed her, she would come. No questions, no refusals. That night I followed her. She kept that promise. I asked if she slept with him. She didn't answer. That silence told me more than words could. I felt sick but oddly numb, as if pain had reached a ceiling in me and could go no higher. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I wasn't angry. I was destroyed. She said she still loved me, that she never stopped. But love isn't always enough. I asked her why she never told me. Her answer was soft. Because I didn't want you to see me as broken. I told her I didn't. I never had, until now. We tried to pretend things were fine. Days passed, where we went through motions like actors in a dying play. But I could see it in her eyes. She was drifting. Part of her was no longer here. One night, she packed a bag. I watched her from the doorway. She looked at me with tears clinging to her lashes. "He's in trouble," she said, "and I owe him my life." I asked if she was coming back. She didn't answer. She just kissed me on the forehead like a mother, saying goodbye to her child. She left before dawn. I sat alone for hours, unable to move, unable to think. All I could do was replay every moment we shared and wonder how many of them were real. The laughter, the passion, the soft confessions in the dark. Were they ever truly mine? Or was I always just a chapter in her story, a safe haven between storms? Weeks passed. I received no word. I tried to call, to message, but everything was met with silence. I considered going after her, but where would I even begin? And what would I say? That I still loved her despite everything. That I hated her for leaving, but hated myself more for wanting her to stay. Then one evening, I came home to find her sitting on the porch. Her eyes were tired, her frame thinner, but there was peace in her smile. She said nothing at first, just stood and wrapped her arms around me like no time had passed. We didn't speak for a long while, just held each other under the silent sky. Finally she pulled back and whispered, "He's gone now." I nodded, unsure what that meant, unsure what to feel. She stayed that night. We lay in bed without touching, like strangers clinging to a memory. In the morning she made coffee like she used to, humming softly, barefoot and radiant. She turned to me and said, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to come back, because this was the only place that ever felt like home." I told her the truth. I hadn't stopped loving her, but love now wore a different face. One with scars and shadows, one that could never quite forget. We lived together still, but not as we were. The wound never fully healed, but we've learned to live around it. Some days we smile genuinely. Some nights we hold each other like we're afraid to let go. She never speaks of him. I never ask. We exist in a fragile peace, one built not on perfect love, but on the courage to stay in the aftermath. She is still the mystery I once worshipped, but now I know mysteries are not meant to be solved, only accepted, only loved, if you dare.